Today's video will be my first in the series of Revit concept videos, as I call them. When you take a Revit class, you go straight into learning the program, and you don't really spend a lot of time on concepts that will echo all throughout your Revit life. So I wanted to create a short little video on datums and workplanes. So this is a very huge concept to know because everything in Revit has interactions with a workplane, and being a Revit master, you have to first master datums and workplanes. So the first thing we're going to talk about when you open a standard Revit out-of-the-box file is you have two levels as a default. So levels are the most important datum in Revit because anything that is created has a reference to a level. So the level, when I go to level 1, this is an active work plane. So if I go to floor plan level 1 and I draw anything, it will be hosted on that level. So if I go to 3D, you'll see that when I drew these walls, they were hosted to level 1. So with walls, you have the ability to constrain them to different levels, and whenever I change the height of the level, for instance, the walls will go with. But it is important to know that you can change your work plane at any time to create things on a work plane. So up here in the architecture tab, you have this work plane area. So I can click show my work plane, and you can see that level 1 is activated here. So you can set your work plane to almost any face or datum in the program. So if I go up here and say set work plane, I get this dialog box that allows me to pick a pick a named work plane, pick a custom plane, pick a line and use the work plane it was sketched in. So essentially any object can then be used to create a work plane. So if I go down here and pick level 2, then my work plane will be on level 2. This primarily is used with families and not system families. So as I can see, this wall is created on level 1. If I'm in 3D and I come up here to draw, and if this was a family and I started drawing, it would land on this work plane. However, this is a wall, it's a system family, so they use levels. Okay, so turn this off really quick. I can also go to set work plane, and I can pick a plane, and that allows me to pick essentially any 3D surface or datum in the project. So when we talk about datums, the levels are horizontal datums, and then we have other types like grids. So I'm going to come in here and just draw grids really fast. Let's cricket here. So if I go back to 3D, so Revit 2021, I believe, and beyond has 3D grids. So the grids is what we would refer to as our vertical datums, because when we draw them in plan, but they have a vertical aspect to them. So Revit, in terms of 3D programs, is what I like to refer to as a 2.5D, which means they're not it's not a true three-dimensional program, but it allows you to have three-dimensional aspects. But I call it 2.5D because these things are they're a plane in one direction as a grid, but they do have a verticalness to them. And I can also set my work plane to work with these grids. So anytime you produce a grid, show that, you can attach the work plane to it, and that allows you to create objects on the work plane. Grids are also important in the construction workflow because that's how we identify where things are. So if I say it's at the intersection of grid 1 and 4, that's how we sort of find things. However, in the terms of structural engineering, they're important because they illustrate the structural engineering datums. That's the right word I'm looking for. Okay, so we have levels, grids, and then we have a couple of custom ones that are called reference planes. So a reference plane is a sort of generic grid, if you will. So it is a special category, and unlike a grid, you can subcategorize them. So you can then turn them on and off in visibility. So if I go down here to reference planes, you can, if I go into here to reference planes, you can create a subcategory of reference planes that you can then change the graphics or use them to turn on and turn off. So I'm going to hit OK, and you can give them different graphics and all that good stuff. So that allows you to use them in a more thorough way. I changed the graphics there. But if we go to 3D, you won't see reference lines in 3D within the project, but I can use them to create a work plane. So I can do reference plane 1, show the reference plane, and there we have it. So you can also go into side views to create your reference planes. So if I do a diagonal here, just giving these generic names, and then I will set a work plane and set it here. So that allows you to create work planes that are rotated off the normal axes. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create just a generic family for you really quick and show you where the data has really become important. So we'll do a new family, go to generic model face-based, and you'll notice that you have lots of generic models, ceiling-based, floor-based, line-based, pattern-based, roof-based, whatever. So these are basically meant to host to certain types of objects. If I just do a generic model face-based, that means that it is used to attach to a face. So within this family here, if I come down here, I'm just going to create a silly little box here, and then we'll load this into the project. Okay, so right now, when I pull these in here, I have place on face and place on work plane. So we just saw how this is a face-based family. So if I click face, notice how there's nothing selectable, because there is no 3D faces in my file. If I do work plane, it allows you to set it on a work plane. So as I'm hovering around here, it looks like it's doing this arbitrarily, but really what's going on is I had this work plane selected. So wherever you need to put this object on a work plane, you can do that if you just use one of the datums that Revit has available to it. So I'm going to set this work plane, and we're going to put it on mid 2. Okay, so this guy does not move because it was placed in 3D space. You really don't want your work or the objects moving around because you put it there for a reason, right? And if you look at this, I select it and I go over here to my properties, it'll say reference plane diagonal. So that still has a reference to that work plane. So I can, let me really quick turn on my work plane. Okay, so now this is on grid 2. So I'm going to grab this guy here, and with this or many other objects, I can select this, I can say pick new work plane, and then it will put it on the new work plane here. So very important to know how to establish datums in Revit. Okay, so I'm going to turn this back off again. I'm going to create some walls really fast. And then I'm going to do one wall. And now in Revit you have the ability to slant walls. So I'm going to slant this wall at 25 degrees. And in the new 2023, you just have the ability to pick a plane. There's a new button for it. So I'm going to just hover above this, use my tab to select that, and verify that I am on this work plane. You can at any time shrink this work plane if it is getting too crazy for you. Like in the NFL, the work plane goes from pylon to pylon all around the world, so you don't really need your work plane to shoot out. It's still going to host it, right? So I'm going to right click this, select create similar, and then I'm going to put it on here. So if I use this, so that was the work plane. Since I now have a face, I can change this to face method, and then I can put it on this. I don't know why that's rotated, but and once the object is on the work plane, whenever you rotate it or move it or do this, it will stay on the same work plane even if I move it over here. This one was face-based, so it yells at you if you lose the face there. So, an important thing to note, if I grab this family, I go back to edit family, within certain families, okay, I guess this one doesn't have this category here. Within a lot of families, you have this variable called always vertical. Might have left in the new 2023, but you will have, in certain families, you will have a little checkbox in the properties that says always vertical. So what that means is no matter what face that you place the object on, it's always going to be vertical. So what that means is this thing would still attach to the work plane, but it would be 90 degrees perpendicular from the work plane. Okay, so another thing that we can do by using these work planes is go and make a new family really fast. I'm going to use a imperial. Generic model adaptive. I like to use these because they have some powerful methods in them, but what I'm going to do here is create a plane. I'm going to add a reference plane. Okay, and in this thing name, you have to name the reference planes and it will show up in your selection, create reference plane. So what I'm going to do is create one like this, and I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to rotate 10 degrees, and then I'm going to create another one. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to set up some sort of custom work planes, and you'll see what I'm doing in 2 seconds. But I'm setting up, oops, what I'm doing is I'm setting up some work planes so I can create a crazy thing that I'm going to show you here in a second. Okay, so you can see my work planes here that I set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my work plane, this guy, I'll show it to make sure I'm on the right one, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create some circles. Apologize for my dishwasher. It's yelling at me and wants some attention. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm creating some objects here, and I'm going to select these objects. I'm going to hit create form. Okay, so this crazy funky thingy that I just built, Revit is very complicated in the terms of conceptual massing and 3D massing. It's not like 3ds Max where we can just create some vertices and then just go to town and organically model whatever we want. In Revit, the modeling systems are very archaic and old to where it needs some rules, because you can't just create some circles and extrude them and then adjust the vertices and their edges to how you want it. So what I just did here was I came in here and I created 3 different work planes, and if I want, I can come in here and I'll rotate this again and move this over to 3D, set my work plane to this one, and okay. So I'm going to grab these 2 shapes and create another form. So then I'm not really thinking here, but as you can see, I'm creating a very odd, complex shape here. You can do this in the Revit system itself, but it's a little complicated. So then I can come in here, and then I can start to create some adaptive components or whatever, and I can then edge here, I can divide this path to give me some more points, and we're starting to get into another tutorial on that components, but as you can see, I can do all kinds of complex geometry with the work planes. This one on the face. So there's my crazy funky shape that I just made. Maybe it's a crazy art sculpture for your new sculpture. That's pretty much it. You also have the this other ability here to, if I select an actual work plane here, set my work plane, pick up plane, and I'm going to slap it on here. So I just put this on that work plane, And you also have this viewer capability, so when you're making a workplane, I can go to this viewer thing, and it's really kind of confusing. But what this viewer thing is, it allows you to create, it allows you to get a perpendicular view of your object, I guess you would say. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick in-place mask here, and I'm going to just run around like here. So what I'm doing is I'm creating this viewer thing gives you a perpendicular view of the work plane. So my work plane is in crazy different 3D directions here, but I can come up here and I can then use the viewer to get on there to where I can build things in an orthogonal way, so perpendicular to the face. Let's see how that's helpful. Alright, so I think that's pretty much all of the datum and workplane concepts that I have to show you today. So a quick little 20-minute expose on crazy things you can do with Workplanes. Thanks again for stopping by, and we'll see you again on the next tutorial. Be sure to check out my new series on wood and steel construction, where we will be going through an entire workflow of building a model with multiple disciplines. Thank you very much.
Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to subscribe and like and that notification thing and whatever YouTube stuff you guys do. Have a good one.